The sikha that we will be learning today is the third sikha in Likutei Sichos Chelik Chof Parshas Vayera. The Sheiches Nisoyen o Akeda, was is given der Zentrum von der Asora Nisim, was Nisnas Avram Avinu. In Parshas Vayera we learn about the Nisoyen of Akeda. The Eibusha told Avram Avinu to take Yitzchak to the Akeda and Shechtim. Then the Eibusha told him not to do it, etc., etc. This was the 10th one of the Asora Nisim. It says in Pirkei Avos there were 10 tests that Hashem tested Avram Avinu. This was the last one. So concerning this test, Zog the Gemara says, Ados der Eibusha had gesagt to Avram, Kach no es bincho. When the Eibusha said to Avram, Kach no, please, no means please, take your son and take him to the Akedah. And the word no, please, is Losha Bakosh, he's asking. What does it mean he's asking? Meint zu sagen, this means to say, the Eibusha said to Avram like this, Nisisicha bekama nisyenes, I tested you with many tests. V'omadeta b'kulam, and you passed all the tests. Achshav now, ameidli b'nisoyen zeh, please, pass this test too. Shalayemru, that people shouldn't say, Ein mamish b'rashenim. That means if you don't pass this test, people will say that even the earlier test that you passed is nothing, doesn't mean anything. So please, so he said, please, in other words, he commanded them to do it, but he says, please pass the test. So if not, they will say that all the tests that you did pass also means nothing. Davon verstehen, so the Rabbi says, we have to understand. Was der Tam, was when Avram wollte nicht beigestanden dem Nesoyen Akedah, wollte mir gesagt, hey, mamish b'rashenim. What's the reason? That had he not passed this test of the Akedah, people would say that the earlier 9 tests are nothing. Ein mamish means there's nothing there. Why? Das wird nur gemeint, if he chas v'shal wouldn't pass the test, all it would mean is, as I Mesiras Nefesh, and not as they feel, that even though he passed the test, and that taka shows great things, but his Mesiras Nefesh is not so great concerning such a test like the Akedah. So, but the Funit kin choche adi alle Friedik and Nisyenes, as Avram is beigestanden, is ein mamish. But it wouldn't prove that all the previous tests that he passed mean nothing. Why would they mean nothing? They meant, he didn't do this one. This was a harder one. Especially this Nisoyen was a very hard Nisoyen. Imagine, tell him, did you kill your child? It's the hardest Nisoyen. So they would say, such a Nisoyen he couldn't do, but other Nisoyens he did pass. But why did the Eibusha say, if you don't pass this test, they will say the rest of them are nothing? Why? So the Rebbe, to explain that, he starts off like this. In Klolos Parshas Akedah, concerning the general idea of the parsha, but it says in the Akedah, was Ziyis kol keren Yisrael u'schusum lifnei Avinu shebashamayim. The Rebbe here is quoting the Lashon of the Abarbanel. He refers to the Akedah is like this is a cornerstone by Yidden, and this is a great schus, a great merit by Yidden in the front of the Eibishter, the Father in heaven. That's why it is so common in our mouth. We always use it all day. We always mention the Chusut HaKedah. So on this inyan is Yedua D'Shayla. It's known the question. There's a question on this. Why do we make such a big fuss about the Akedah? Why do we constantly mention the Akedah that Avram took Yitzchak to the Akedah? We mentioned that more than the Akedah that so many great people, Chassidim and Kedoshim, Tzadikim, gave up on Kiddush Hashem. Kigay Rabbi Akiva v'Chavera, Rabbi Akiva and his friends, v'chol Agdeshim Hashem v'chol Deir v'Deir, and all the Kedoshim people who gave up their lives. There were so many people who gave up their lives for Hashem. And this is all a lotion of the Sefer HaIkrim as this question. So many Tzadikim. Why do we make such a big fuss over the Akedah that Avram took Yitzchak when there were so many other Tzadikim? Rabbi Akiva and Chavera and later generations that went on Mesiras Nefesh. Avraham is Hashem Diber Bekachno, especially that it seems like the other people, their Mesiras Nefesh is greater than Avram's, because Avram, the Eibishter told him, Kachno, take him. But the other people that went on Mesiras Nefesh gave their lives for Hashem. Hashem didn't speak to them and tell them. So if Hashem spoke to them, it makes it easier. Hashem himself told me to do it. These are people Hashem did not tell to do. So their Mesiras Nefesh seems to be even stronger. And nevertheless, we make a fuss of the Akedah. So nicht maspig der Antwort. It's not enough to give this answer. As Meister Nefesh sein an eigen Kind al Kiddush Hashem is a Sach schwerer und tiefer wie zu Meister Nefesh sein sich allein al Kiddush Hashem. That to give up the life of your child is much bigger Mesiras Nefesh and deeper Mesiras Nefesh, harder than to give up your own life. So Mele here is different. They gave up their lives. By Avram, he was ready to give up his son's life. So that's why that's so special. You can't answer that. Because even in much later generations, there was the famous story with Chana and her 7 sons, that her 7 sons were all got killed as Kiddush Hashem, and she encouraged them to do it. And that seems to be even greater than what Avram did. She herself, the Gemara in Gittin says, she herself said to her son, give a message to Avram before he got killed. Give a message to Avram when you'll see him. Tell him, Ato Avram, you akada to mizbeach echad. You make an akeda by one mizbeach. You gave up one child. You're ready to give up one child. I gave up 7 children. It was Chana and her 7 sons. So we see that there were other tzaddikim who gave up the life of their child, of their children. So Avram's, the story of Akeda is not special. Now there is a noch dem in diesem Jahr Schmad Rahman al-Islam given fall, the needn aber nicht nur sich allein meisen nefesh wenn Akeda Hashem na rev ihre Kinder bechulik yedua. And it's known that even later generations, in the times of Shmad, when the Goyim killed the Eden and they wanted them to convert and they gave up their lives, but it was not only they gave up their own lives, they gave up their lives of their children. So we see that it was not Avram Avinu the only one. So why do we make such a fuss only about Avram Avinu? The Sefer HaYikrim Masbir. So the Sefer HaYikrim, he asks the question, and he gives an answer like this. The Chiddush Ma'akedes Yitzchak is bestanden in them was lein Yisara bepeil ha'akedo shum tzad hechrech klal. The specialty of the Akedah was that really in the Akedah there was no hechrech, it didn't have to happen. In other words, Avram Avinu did not have to give up the son. Even what Hashem told him to do, he would not have forced him, but it was not something that was forced to do, that there was no choice about it. How do we see there was no choice? This is what the Chazal say in Medrash, and Rashi brings similar. Al posik Hashem Yireh, that Avram said that Avram said Hashem Yireh. The Eibusha said. So the Chazal say that what happened. What was the conversation? What did he say? Omar Avram lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avram said to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Golav Yedu Lefanecha. You know. When you told me, take your son, your only son that you love, Yitzchak, bring him as a korban eila. I could have told you. What could I have told you? Didn't you tell me that Yitzchak will be my child and all the children later on generation will come from Yitzchak? But I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you that. In other words, I had a good excuse not to do it. And I didn't do it. I didn't say it. I squished my pity, my mercy, and I didn't think against your midas. The Sefer Yikim says from that seems clear that even the way Hashem commanded him, Avram did not really have to do it. That he could have got an excuse not to do it with a good reason. Because the way he said today, he said, I could have not done it. And he wouldn't have been terribly wrong because he had a good excuse. So B'meile, this is the chidush of Avram. Avram wasn't commanded, didn't have to do it, and he still did it. And the meat is the Ran Masben. The Ran explains, the Ran in Rosh Hashanah and in Pirshan al-Torah, he explains, was doshtei kachno. He explains why the Eibusha said, kachno as bincho. Please take your son. So before we said please, the Gemara says he told him please. He told him you have to do it, but please pass the test. The Ran says another pshat, that Hashem said please means loshen bakoshe. He's asking him to do it, which means he must do it. He asking about says given bakoshe nit ken hechrech. It was only a request, not a must. So b'meila, there's something special what Avram did, that even if he didn't have to, he still did it. Mashenk and Dikdeshim, but the other holy ones, the other ones who gave up their life on Kiddush Hashem in the later generations, they did it because they had to do it. There's a command from Hashem, that you have to go on Mesiras Nefesh. The Pasuk says, "V'nigdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael," I should become holy, sanctified amongst Yidden. That's the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. So Avram didn't have to do it, and still he did it. The other ones had to do it. There's a din like there's a mitzvah. So what he did is greater. But it's not enough, this answer. First of all, besides the fact that it's very hard to say, as Eba Yisi Yoch Lemer, that the way the Ikrim says, Sefer Ikrim says, because I could have said it, by Al Bakosha, is a Snitkin Hecha, since he could have said it, in other words, and therefore you say, that means it's not a Hechrech, and you're saying, because since it's only the Eibusher asking him, it doesn't mean he had to do it. Nevertheless, he did it. That's why he's greater. You can't say that. It's hard to say that, at least. Well, the Eibusher alein bet azach. If the Eibusher himself is asking you, even if it's in a way that you could dispute it, you could argue with Hashem. He says, ahechrech. If the Eibusher asks you to do something, that's called a hechrech. That's called you got to do it. With Frad by Avram Avinu. Besides, especially by Avram. If the Eibusher asked him to do it, he would definitely have to do it. So that's number one, why that teretz is not so simple that he didn't really have to do it, and that's the specialty. Besides that, is a Eich zwischen the Gdeishim and Nazai, gewinn a selche, was Mesiras Nefesh, al Kiddush Hashem, nie gewinn verbunden mit Achiv, et Zibel Shel Torah. Amongst those people who went to Mesiras Nefesh, some of them went to Mesiras Nefesh even when it was not connected with an obligation and the commandment of the Torah. For Adarab, on the contrary, some gedarb der Ruf suchen a heter ap yaloche. They had to find a heter, a leniency in halacha that they were allowed to go Mesiras Nefesh. Ki yidu the shakel ibetani v'zeh, as known the discussion, si memeg zich meise nefesh zayin of them was al pidin is yaver v'al yaharek. Are you allowed to give up your life for those mitzvahs where it says, be aver and don't get killed? We know that only for 3 averas it says, yaharek v'al yaver. Avodah Zorah, to worship Avodah Zorah, gila arayas, adultery, and shfichas domim, murder. If someone tells you, I'll kill you if you don't do any of these 3, you have to give up your life. That's called Yehorek ve'al yaver. You get killed and don't be aver. But kol ha'teira kula, by all the other mitzvahs in the Torah, if someone tells you, do an avera, if not, I'll kill you, is yaver ve'al Yehorek. Yaver be aver and don't get killed. And in that gufa, there's a big machlokes in the Rishonim. The Rambam says when it says yaver ve'al Yehorek by the other averas, except these 3, the taich is yaver ve'al Yehorek, and you're not allowed to get killed. Most Rishonim learn you're allowed to. So those that gave up their life for other things besides the 3, wasn't so simple. They were not commanded to do it. They certainly didn't have to. It's even they had to find a heter that they're allowed to. They followed the other opinions that you're allowed to, but they didn't have to. So how can you say that the specialty of the Akedah that he did it when he didn't have to, while the others who went to Mesiras Nefesh is because they were commanded by Hashem? It's not true. Many people went to Mesiras Nefesh even for things that they were not commanded. So we're back to the question, why do we make such a big fuss of the Akedah? So the Rebbe says, you do the Bir Bezevas brings Chassidus. So we know Chassidus brings an explanation. And the Rebbe says it's different. Maimorim, he brings in 23. So you do the Bir Bezevas brings Chassidus. Chassidus brings the explanation like this. The roof to von Avram Avinu is Bashan Derin. The specialty of Avram is this. Was given der erste was beigestanden in the Mesiras Nefesh. Is the first one that passed the test of giving up life, not his own life, but his son, ready to give up his son's life, which is Mesiras Nefesh. But the Aschola for Yeder Zach is kosher. The first thing, the beginning of everything is very hard. The Boloshon, how you do it, like it says in Mechilte, Rasha brings, Kol Haschol is kosher. All beginnings are hard. Aber Norden wie Avram Posach, Avram opened it, started it. Hat geöffnet dem Zinne für Mesiras Nefesh. He already opened up the pipe of Mesiras Nefesh. His name shall geworden in Welt der Keich of Mesiras Nefesh. So now the Keich of being able to go Mesiras Nefesh was already brought into the world. Und the Fari does not them asar getting later on, it's easier. Since he brought the concept of Mesiras Nefesh into the world, so all the people after him followed him. Since he opened it, they also were able to, they had the Keich to do it. And this is the Maile of Avram, that he was the first. Before him, there was no one in the Mesiras Nefesh. So he opened the pipe. And this is connected to the Loshen Posach. In Zayir, a lot of times it says, Posach, this and this person opened up. And it says in Chassidus, the Pshat, what Pshat he opened up. There are certain things that are not here yet. Certain things are here in the world, but it's uncovered. You got to uncover it. It's covered and you got to uncover it. That's all it is. You got to uncover it. Certain things are not even here. You got to bring it down. So sometimes there's something that you do that starts up. You're the first one to do it, and that opens it up. And we use the lotion a pipe, just like when there's a pipe of water coming, and it's closed, so it's not coming. But then when the first one who opens the faucet, it starts coming, not by itself already. It's going to keep going. Same thing. You open certain inyonim, and that brings it into the world, and you can do it. And that's the Maila of Avram, that Avram was the first one. By Akedah was the first one to go on Mesiras Nefesh. First time of Mesiras Nefesh, that was very hard. A lot of times the first thing to break through is hard. But after he broke it through already, then everyone has the Keach. The famous story that Rabbi brought it in different sikhs, that once the Bes Yosef had a strong kasha and he worked very hard and davened at this to get an answer. He couldn't figure out an answer. And later on, he happened to hear somebody ask this question from somebody, and the person on the spot answered the answer that it took him days and weeks of fasting and davening till he figured it out. So he felt very bad. So he learned with a Magid, with a Malach. And he asked him, what's the story here? So he told him, this answer was not in the world yet. So to bring it down, you have to work hard. But after you figured it out and you brought it down, you opened up the pipe. So now everybody could feel it. Same thing here. Avram opens it. That's why it makes such a fuss of Avram, because that was the beginning of the Keich of Mesiras Nefesh. To bring, from then on, he brought it out. Later on, all you have to do is bring it out in the Keich Halapel, because the Keich came down, the power came down. Every person had to bring it out into actuality, true, into reality. But by Avram, he had to even bring the Keich down. It wasn't there. And that's why it's special. So when it moved in the Rebbe said it's not understood. This is not an answer which is understood. The Inyan Mesiras Nefesh Repel is nimshach geworden nach Avram Avinu noch früher, wie den Soin Akedah. This idea of Mesiras Nefesh, actual Mesiras Nefesh by Avram, happened before the test of the Akedah. By the Nesoim from Ur Kasdim, when he still lived in Ur Kasdim. And he had a test then. When Avram hat sich eingestellt mit der Mesiras Nefesh zu vertilgen, kommen in Avodah Zarah. He went to Mesiras Nefesh to destroy all the Avodah Zarah. Everyone knows the story, but he broke the Avodah Zarah of Terach, and he went to Mesiras Nefesh. And he went to Mesiras Nefesh to spread godliness in the world. This the Rambam brings to Sefer Hayad, Sefer Halachas. The Rambam brings in his Sefer Hayad, which is usually no stories. It's just Sefer of Halachas. So wherever he does bring a story, must be that story tells us something. The Rambam says, "As bikesh hamelech laherge," the king wanted to kill him, v'naseh leines, and made a nest. So in Ur Kasdim, which happened years before the Akedah, he already went to Mesiras Nefesh. He was ready. He gave up his life. He's ready to give up his life. He went Farsim Lakus. The king wanted to kill him, and then Eibishter made a nest. So we said that the Akedah is so special because that's the first Mesiras Nefesh. It's not so. Avram himself, the Mesiras Nefesh of Ur Kasdim, came before. Nochmer goes even more. The Nesoim from Ur Kasdim hat in sich lechura nach Hayisrael gab Nesoim Akedah. This test of Ur Kasdim is more, has something more lechura than the test of the Akedah. When the Nesoim Akedah is going to be a dibur for neighbors, Hashem dibur. As we said before, by the Akedah, the Eibishter told him to do it. Schenke the Nesoim from Ur Kasdim, but in Ur Kasdim, the Eibishter never told him break David the Zorah. The Eibishter didn't tell him go spread my name. So obviously, the Ur Kasdim is a bigger Mesiras Nefesh when he did it without even being told by Hashem. And since the Inyan of Akedah was not the first case of Mesiras Nefesh, not even by Avram himself, it comes back. It was What's the special Ma'il Nesoin Akedah to make a fuss over it? So we tried to answer, not tried. The Chassidus says that this was, the specialty is that this was the first, but it doesn't seem to be right because it wasn't the first. The first wasn't Ur Kasdim. So to explain this, let's understand what is so special about Mesiras Nefesh. You make a whole fuss over Mesiras Nefesh. What is the specialty of Mesiras Nefesh? So the Rebbe says like this. Von dem Biur as Avram hat geöffnet dem Sinne, by Chassidus explaining that Avram, with this Mesiras Nefesh, opened the pipe. That's the Lashon we said. Azach was bringt Mayim kayetz v'zeh. A pipe is something that brings water from one place to another. That means water that's not here, it's not here. But in order to bring it, you have to have a pipe. So the one that opens the pipe has the hardest time. But after he opens, it comes by itself. What does that mean? That this Avram's Mesiras Nefesh opened the pipe for Mesiras Nefesh Beilam. And in the world, there's Mesiras Nefesh, which is not there. Is moving as in them, as on them is the Nit Todim Etzias Mesiras Nefesh Beilam. Since we're saying that he had to open the pipe, that means bring from someplace else something that's not here, means that if not for what Avram did, There is no concept of Mesiras Nefesh in the world. So it comes out. If there's a concept, you don't have to bring it from someplace else. Bring something that's not here. Bringing a pipe of water means it's not here, and we're bringing it. So similar that there was no Mesiras Nefesh. That in the world on its own, there is no such thing as Mesiras Nefesh. But the question is, why? There is Mesiras Nefesh. And the Rebbe will even bring that we even have to by goyim, that some goyim go give up their life for whatever things they have. So there is a concept of Mesiras Nefesh. What's the pshat that there is a special something special that there should be Mesiras Nefesh? So the Asbara, the explanation is like this: Mesiras Nefesh mean bitl hayesh v'metzias. That's all. Mesiras Nefesh mean we say giving up your. It's not giving up your life physically. That's true. That's the greatest level of that. But the point is not that you're giving up your life. The point is you're giving up yourself. Normally, the person's own life is this most important thing of himself. So you give it up. But the point is not giving up, Pasha, your life. It's giving up your yesh, your being, your metzias, your existence. And niv remained, person who is a creation, part of the creation, means the Vayera of Hashaf and Hayesh metzias, the Eibishter created a bintziyah. Bemis, there's no metzias, there's nothing. There's nothing but the Eibishter. When we say there is a nivra, means the Eibishter made a nivra, made something should be a yesh metzias. He's moving as a nivra can be kechatzman nitzukuman so hechapans metzias. So if the Eibishter created, and that's his whole thing is the creation of, and what did the Eibishter create a metzias? So a person on his own, the way it is from creation, cannot go beyond his own metzias. The Eibishter made a metzias, and that's what he is. Just like it's the Loshen, a person who's in jail can't free himself in jail. You have to have somebody outside. But if you're in jail, you're stuck there. Or like the Rabbi used once an example, a person can't pick himself up by his ears. Let's say if he wants to pick himself up, he's going to pull him by his ears. It's part of you, the ears. You're trying to pick yourself up higher than yourself. You can't pick up yourself higher than yourself. So, nevertheless, you could do that. Why? You have to have a keich from another place, like somebody's in jail, somebody's on the floor, wants to pick himself up. You have to have something that's above, within himself, whatever he's going to do within himself, pick himself, it won't work, because it's all him. You have to have an extra keich that's outside of you. If you're in jail, you can't get out. Somebody who's not in jail could take you out. So you have to have a keich from someplace else. If cannot sukum it's a Mesiras Nefesh to be Mesiras Nefesh, because Mesiras Nefesh is something against nature. Nature is that every creature is a metzias, and the metzias cannot get out of his metzias. And the real Mesiras Nefesh, you're getting out of your metzias. On your own, you can't do it. So there's a special keich. We said you have to have a special keich brought down from above to pick you up, that you could go against your nature, which is your metzias, and you could do that. And that's something special. But l'chura tamur, the Rabbi asked, it's not simple. We find Mesiras Nefesh by goyim. So we find that they also give up their life for their ideals, for whatever it is. Besides that, there is a svara in the order there brings the Minchas Chinuch talks about whatever. The Rambam, that the goy has a mitzvah Mesiras Nefesh, and it's a goy, and the mitzvah of Kiddush of going a Kiddush Hashem. But besides that, as eine Vergewinn kam auf allen lahavdil, wenn sie haben sich gelost umbringen zu dem Zera Munus Vedeyes. There are many cases that goyim lahavdil allowed themselves to be killed because of their ideals, because of their belief, what they had believed. So they have it. And they don't have that extra koyach. How did that happen? If giving up giving up your life is not natural, it can't come from nature unless it's above nature. How did the goyim have it? We have Lachman and Litzarni, you have the suicide bombers. They're giving up their life. And we see they go Mesiras Nefesh. So Leib das Border, the Rebbe could say the explanation is like this. Those Halim, as I mentioned, is great. For the Mebish's wegen. This is a person is ready to give up his life for Hashem. He's noch nicht border das Amita Sinya from Mesiras Nefesh or Bittul HaMetzias. It doesn't mean that this is the real Mesiras Nefesh. The real Mesiras Nefesh is Bittul HaMetzias, that you're giving up yourself. Letting yourself get killed for your ideals is not pshat that you're giving up, even if it's for the ideal of Hashem. Not necessarily does it mean you're giving up yourself. As Ken Zayin is possible, as there is Ichmeis and Nefesh Defar, you could sometimes, a person could be, he gives up his life because by Im Kum Tuis Al Piseichel V'Cheshm, he makes a cheshm, and he has a seichel, and makes a calculation, as dos lein sich ihm mehr bleiben leben, that it's worth for him, again, worth for him to die rather than to live. Vet verdienen as aggressor Sach, he will gain something more. Like the example I gave. They tell these students like bombers, if you do this, you're going to go to what? And you're going to get this and Gan Eden, all this mishigas they give. So these guys make a cheshbon. It's worth for me. My metzias is better if I will let myself get killed. So they're not giving up their metzias. It's physically giving up your life, but not mesiras nefesh. But not mesiras nefesh was in ganze miyusad of cheshbon. Mesiras nefesh that's completely based on the calculation that you make. It'll be better for you. Ken zayin lahav lo could be by going too. The Hainut means meint that durch mesiras nefesh zayin sich vater verdienen. He thinks that by giving up his life, he will gain. His metzias, he will be better off. So it's again looking for himself. Well, then it's hadashlila. Sometimes it looks the other way. He feels as sometimes he feels if I don't reach this and this thing, it's not worth for me to live. Why should I live? So here again, he's letting himself die because he feels that the way it is, it's worse for him. It's better if he doesn't live. I can't live like this. So it's again, I can't live. It's me. It's caring about himself. But Dugmas Allah Betin, believe similar what the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, the story of a person who saw this woman and he liked her and he wanted to have with her connection to her, and he got so sick that he almost died. And there was a shaila, is he allowed to see her or not? Whatever the whole Gemara. But the Gemara says that sometimes out of feeling of something, you're ready to die when you feel something. Sometimes it's nitzchanis. You're coming because you want to win. I'm going to go fight till the end, because I want to be the one that comes out to win. It's better for me. It's not. It's also for me. Befrad by a melech, certainly by a king, we find that, and it says in the order 38 in Basiligani, Tov Friedrich Rebbe, he brings that the midas and nitzochan is so strong, stronger than anything, that a tzaddik is ready. I mean, a melech, a king, is ready to put his life on the line just to come out victorious. So this is all because it's better for him. The emeser in Mesiras Nefesh is the real Mesiras Nefesh is Mesedem Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh doesn't say Mesiras Haguf. Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Haguf means giving body, and that could be for all kinds of reasons. Nefesh is you, giving up the you, the ich, the I. You give sich in ganz Nibel zum Eibischen, you give yourself completely over to Hashem. Am Mesiru in the Sinne, was is Hecher von aller Reich, ich bin es Verseichel oder Remisch, mit Regischkeit, you give yourself over completely to Hashem beyond all calculation of your logic, intellect, or feeling, or anything like it. He's in ganzen bottle zum Eibischen, in a neifen, not the eigene Metzies is klonitev mokim. You're completely bottle nullified to Hashem that your own Metzies doesn't count. And therefore, you give your life up also. Your life doesn't count, nothing counts, but not because you don't care about you care about yourself, and giving yourself up will be. You don't care about yourself, you care only about the Eibishter. That's what the real Mesiras Nefesh is. Yeshlema, so the Rebbe adds, as Begilui Belishim Sofik Be'elom, is das gewend der Uftu Niluf the Nesoin Akedah the Rabbi Nesoin from Kazdim. This is the specialty of the test of the Akedah over the test of Kazdim. Why? The real Mesiras Nefesh, where did you see it? The truth is, what the real Mesiras Nefesh was by Avram, by Kazdim also. Because we're talking about Avram Avinu. We know he was the great tzaddik. He did Mesiras Nefesh, giving up his... But where did you see it that you can't dispute it and can't come and say maybe he did it for his own personal reasons, is by the Nesoin of the kid. That's the first one. How? The Mesiras Nefesh in Kazdim is bestan in them. Mesiras Nefesh of Kazdim, that he put his life on the line, was Avram hat sich Meiser Nefesh given of them Pirsen from the Munah of Hashem Ve'elam. Hashem gave, Avram was ready to give up his life to spread the Munah in Hashem in the world. Und der Rebbe kennt seine Kansalkadaito Ve'elam. So therefore, in the Welt, if you look at it from the outside, there could be some kind of idea at the Mesiras Nefesh, you're going to have to cheshbon the Kedusha. He did the Mesiras Nefesh because he made a cheshbon, made a calculation, a good calculation, a holy calculation, but it's based on what he understood. Sein Überzeugung in der Nötigkeit von heurer Elam, his conviction in the importance of lighting up the world that was dark at that time. That's a lotion that says a medrash. So he was so convinced, his gevemet azash dark was so strong, I didn't care about anything that tried to stop him. He went to Mesiras Nefesh to do what he thinks is right. So again, he's ready to give up his life. It's great. And based on a holy cheshbon. But it's still based on his seichel. The Akedah itself, hot nit vermogt, kein Schum an der Sach, had nothing else in it, nor was Yirei Likimata, because he had Yirei Shemayim, he was afraid of Hashem, he was a Yirei Shemayim, and the Farat Avram Zech Meisei Nefesh ben. That's why he was Meisei Nefesh. There was no other reason. It wasn't spreading Elokus in the world. See, the Bayer Phil nie gewend der Linie von Farsen sein Beilam, wie tief mit Arv sein übergegeben zum Eibischen. It wasn't even to show the world how important it is and how deep it is to give to spread Hashem, even if it means giving up your life. It wasn't even that. Because when he did the Akedah, no one was with him. Even the two lads that he took with him, Eliezer and Yishmael, weren't there by the Akedah. They stayed before, and Avram and Yitzchak continued. So there was no one to see anything here. There's no to show anything. He's not showing anybody. So what was there to gain? What calculation could he have made? The only calculation, no calculation. The only thing he did is because I used to tell him to do it. As I said some other place, it says, and as mentioned before, he says, not only was this not in order to spread Hashem, to show how important it is to spread Hashem's words, it was a contradiction to this idea that his mission was to spread Hashem's words. Had he really brought Yitzchak as an Akedah, it would have uprooted the foundation that he planted, the Shosal Avram, and the spreading of the words of Hashem would not have any continuation, because who was going to continue it? His son Yitzchak. Had he killed Yitzchak, there would be no more. So not only was this not because he felt that so important to spread Hashem's word, that the Lakus, so important, so much so that you go on Mesiras Nefesh, that would be a cheshbon, but here that didn't work. This was only a contradictory to it. And there was no one else to see it. So what was there in the Akedah? The only there was in the ganze Rinyan of Mesiras Nefesh, the Akedah is given. The whole Mesiras Nefesh, the Akedah was nor, al der Eibishter had gewollt und gebeten das, the Eibishter wanted it, and asked them for it, and the Farat has Avram getan. That's why he did it. And in them, is Bashtanen, der Uftu von Nesoin Akedah was Avram Avinu is Bakishan. And that's the specialty of the Nesoin Akedah. The Akedah Mesiras Nefesh given be'efim. The Akedah of Mesiras Nefesh was in such a way as that Gamlin it cannot play in Seichel, has no logic in it at all. Es is manit vi rotzen HaKadosh Baruch, it's complete rotzen of Hashem, b'meile bitl ha-metzias betachlis. And it's only the bitl ha-metzias betachlis. And in order 45, the Rabbi even has, or maybe that's what the Ran means when he says that it was a bakosh and not a tzivui, because if it was a bakosh and not a tzivui, shows even more that there's nothing in him. To be a tzivui, you could even state, well, I feel I have to do what Hashem said. Hashem didn't even tell you have to do it. And nevertheless, he did it. So this, according to the Ran, makes it even stronger. That the real Nesoin of the Akedah was this. And this is the answer why the Akedah is special, because the Akedah had this. Now, what about the other tzaddikim? So we're going to see here soon a second that it goes together with the reason that it was the first. But we'll see for a second. Now, this answers the question at the beginning of the Sikha. What did Eibush mean when he said, if you please pass this test, if not, people will say that even the first ones are nothing. So we asked the kasha. If he doesn't pass this, that means they were nothing. They were good, but this was harder, so he didn't do it. So that explains it. When Avram Chas v'Sholom would not pass the test of the Akedah, but Megikent Main and Yemer, so people would have said, they could have thought, as I was Bankistan in the Friedrich and Nisyenis, that the previous Nisyenis, he took a pass, the previous test, the father was designing given behesim to Sichel Kedusha, because in his mind, it was a logical reason why he should do those Nisyenis and pass the test. But Mesiras Nefesh Mamish, Etzem Mamosh Sahemesh, but give up Mesiras Nefesh, give up yourself. He's Alkaponim in Yedei. From the other ones, you don't know. Because when you see the other ones, you could think it's different. You know, in Nurkazim, or the other Nisyenis he did. A person could look at it and say, I don't know, maybe he meant it just because Hashem is the right thing to do, because Hashem wants it, or he did it because his own Seichel told him to do it. You don't know. But now, if he passed the test of the Akedah, it showed retroactive that the other ones that he passed the test is also real Mesiras Nefesh. With fuller, a bittul with a complete bittul to the Eibishter. So we understand why the Eibishter said, pass this test. So really it comes out like this. Sof Kosov, all the previous tests that he passed was also with a real Mesiras Nefesh. But what was it? It's a real Mesiras Nefesh that was in Avraham, but people didn't see it. So people could have said, if we in here, like Akedah, everyone saw that, everyone knew, whoever knew the Akedah later on, knew that there is nothing there but real Mesiras Nefesh, giving up of yourself, of Avraham Avinu. But now, since in the previous one we didn't know, but now that we see he did it here, so we assume, and that happened by the previous one also. That's what he said, that if you don't do this one, the people might say the previous one don't have any mamash. It's nothing. It's not nothing. You passed the test, but it's not Mesiras Nefesh at all. It's not giving up your life. Maybe, so they wouldn't know. But now that you passed this test, so now we see that you went on real Mesiras Nefesh. The Mela, that shows that the other ones also. So after this, it shows them the other one also. So it comes out like this. So which one was the first one? Now, it seems so far they're both first. The first test that he passed was the test of Ur-Kasdim. Because after the Akedah, and now we verified that the tests before were also because of the real Mesiras Nefesh, so the real first Mesiras Nefesh was by Ur-Kasdim. So Chassidus answers that Ur-Kasdim was the first one, Itake was the first one. On the other hand, we say that this is the first. That's why this is special, because this is the first one that revealed it. So this one's the first one that revealed that the Mesiras Nefesh that Avraham Avinu had was a real Mesiras Nefesh. And the Mele, this is also called the first. So Chassidus says that this is the first in the revelation. The other one is also the first. That only became the first after he did the Akedah. Then we realize it came the first. But still not so simple. Why? Because Lepel Mamish, after the Akedah, the first was only Ur-Kasdim. This was the only one that revealed. But in essence, which one was the first real Mesiras Nefesh? Ur-Kasdim. So what do we mean? So we're back to the question, why do we make a big fuss over the Akedah? And the answer is because of the first, but it's not really the first. It's the first that revealed it. But the real first was the Ur-Kasdim. So the Rebbe is going to continue here that the fact that this was the first to reveal is also a first which opened up the tziner of Mesiras Nefesh for other Yidden. Even though we said that this revealed it by Avraham, the other one was the first, so it should be the Ur-Kasdim does that. No, but there's something in the revelation that he did is something that's a special keich to Yidden. What's a special keich? So the Rebbe continues. Das ist der Bier, und dann was the Psichas hat Zinner Beilam of Mesiras Nefesh beim Nesoin Akedah Nidor the Nesoin von Ur-Kasdim. This is why we say that the first one, that is the Psichas HaTzinner that opened up the pipes in the world, is the Nesoin of Akedah, not Ur-Kasdim. It's like I asked just now. After the Akedah, till the Akedah, we didn't know. Akedah was the first one to reveal, but Lepelet revealed it Ur-Kasdim. So why do we say that the specialty of the Akedah is that this opened up the Zinner of Mesiras Nefesh? The Rebbe explains. Psichas HaTzinner Mesiras Nefesh is, when we say Avram opened up the Zinner of Mesiras Nefesh, means as Avram Avinu hat Meidish gewinnt zu Eden dem Keich HaMesiras Nefesh Mamish. Emes Mesiras Nefesh. Avram made Yidden inherit the Keich of real Mesiras Nefesh. Emes, the real Mesiras Nefesh. Bita dos der Emes Rotze for Yed Niden L'Seicha Mamish. Oh, that's the Nekuda here, the word. What happened here, Avram made, because of his Mesiras Nefesh, that by Yidden, even if they don't do the Mesiras Nefesh with the proper approach, that they're giving up their Metzias, but the truth of it is that by every Yid, he really wants to do what Hashem wants and giving up his Metzias. And the Rebbe brings here, and the true Rotzen of every, like it says, L'Tzeichem, it becomes L'Tzeichem. He quotes Rei Rambam Hilchas Gerishin. The Rambam Hilchas Gerish, Schapiro, the Rambam says that when the Yid is forced to give a get because the Torah paskins he has to give a get, even if he says, doesn't want, and we force him to say, I want, it's called he wants. And the Rambam says, why? Because Be'etzim, every Yid wants to do what the Eibishter wants. He says, I don't want. The Yetzer Hara forces him against what he really wants. When you force him against the Yetzer Hara, it brings back the real stuff. It brings back what he really wants. So really by a Yid, the Mesiras Nefesh of Yid, always, never Mesiras Nefesh, is Be'etzim inside, is the fact that he wants to do what Hashem wants. Because the far, when a Yid is Mesiras Nefesh for Neibishten, therefore, when the Yid goes on Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem, Afil in a Nefesh b'chitzeni is kememeinin as es mit HaCheshbon. looking superficially, it looks like it's not real Mesiris Nefesh. There's a certain logical calculation. It is be'emes nita Mesiris Nefesh apecheshbon Mesiris Nefesh mamish. Really, what's behind it is the real Mesiris Nefesh. Ayid git avek sein ganze mamoshet zum Eibishter. Ayid gives away his whole mitzvahs, his whole mamosh, his whole what essence, what he is. L'mayla mekol cheshbon v'den nesoyin akeda like nesoyin akeda. So when did this happen? This is another level. There's a keach of Mesiris Nefesh, but there's a keach in another level that even when your Mesiris Nefesh is not with the true reason of Mesiris Nefesh, Avram Avinu opened up that's also true Mesiris Nefesh. Where did that start? That wasn't by the Nesoyin of Merkazdim. By Nesoyin Merkazdim, it looked like it wasn't Mesiris Nefesh, so superficially it wasn't. Not sure. What happened by the beginning, by the Akedah? It opened up this idea that even it looked like not real Mesiris Nefesh, we found out now that it's real Mesiris Nefesh, which means that the Akedah has something as a first to reveal when something is not Mesiris, is not sure and doesn't look like it's real Mesiris Nefesh, reveals that Be'etzem it is Mesiris Nefesh. The Akedah revealed that the other Nisyanis were real Mesiris Nefesh. And that's a first. The fact that the Yid has a Keach to go on Mesiris Nefesh, even if you think, according to Chetzonius, it looks like it's with a Cheshbon. So nevertheless, it's Be'etzem, revealing that Be'etzem, it's a Keach Mesiris Nefesh, a real Mesiris Nefesh. That came from the Akedah. So it comes like this. The regular Mesiris Nefesh, what was the first with Kazim? This type of Mesiris Nefesh, that every time a Yid goes on Mesiris Nefesh, even if you don't see that as the real Mesiris Nefesh, is really the real Mesiris Nefesh. That came first from the Akedah, because the Akedah brought out that idea that the previous ones, which were not clear that the real Mesiris Nefesh, it revealed that is really the same by every Yid. Bizvid that Alter Rebbe brings the Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe brings the Shulchan Aruch, Ateiv Leimer B'chol Yom Parshas Akedah. That's right. Every day to say the Parsha of the Akedah. And one of the reasons is the Gam Kedei Lachnia Yitzrei, in order to subdue your Yetzer Hara, Lavad Hashem Yisborach, to serve Hashem, K'mei Shemosa Yitzchak Nafshe, like Yitzchak was Mesiris Nefesh. But Rebbe said, we say the Akedah, so you should do Mesiris Nefesh like Yitzchak. L'chore, wie kann man zugleichen der Aveda von jeder Yid, Lachnia Yitzchak, Aveda Hashem Yisborach? How could you compare that every Yid, when he subdues his Yetzer Hara to serve Hashem, compare that to them was Mosa Yitzchak Nafshe? Compare it to the fact that Yitzchak gave up. Posha was ready to give up his nefesh, his life. Was he given Mesiris Nefesh? Betachas Hashem was the Mesiris Nefesh canal. So what does the Alter Rebbe mean in Tanya? No, but the pshat is like this. Avram opened up the pipe for real Mesiris Nefesh, and showing that even what he did before was also real Mesiris Nefesh when it didn't look so clear outwardly. Is yeder aveda from then on, anything that any aveda he does. Zera Avram was from the children of Avram. He's a ben Vayera Avram. He's a son and an heir of Avram. Like it says, Merosha Chilas Yankiv, that we have a Yerusha, we inherit, the Yidden inherit from the Ovis of Avram. So is able to yeder aveda lachnia Yitzrei laved Hashem Ezborach meshemos Yitzchak nafshe. By every Yid, whenever you do your Mesiris Nefesh, in what small thing you do it, you give up of yourself, it's mamish like Yitzchak. Sis Punkt wie Avram führt ihm zu der Akedah, like Avram is taken to the Akedah, weil das ist der Emes Rotzen für jeder Yid, sich abgeben, mamish Meibischen, because that's the real Rotzen of every Yid, to give yourself over to Hashem. But that who brought it out into the open, the first one, that even if you don't see it, but that's the truth, that Avram did by the Akedah, he brought out that even if you don't see that this is the real Mesiris Nefesh, like the previous test, it is Mesiris Nefesh. And that came from, and from then on, any type of Hachniya HaYetzer, anytime you bend your Yetzer Hara for Hashem, since the Akedah, it makes it as if you're mamish giving up your own mitzvah, because in essence, every Yid has that in him as a Yerusha from Avraham Avinu.